Tommy and Mia lived in a small village where the roads were dirt and the houses were simple. Their home was quiet, except when their stepmother's voice echoed through the house, scolding them. It was a cold home, with little love shared. Every day, Tommy would help Mia with the chores. She was younger, but they worked as a team. While Tommy started a fire in the hearth, Mia cleaned the floors, sweeping carefully to avoid waking their stepmother from her chair. Their stepmother, who was not kind to them, often demanded more work, making them clean and cook without rest. Their father worked as a blacksmith in a nearby town, and he was gone most of the time. He loved Tommy and Mia, but he didn't realize how bad things were at home. He had to focus on his work to provide for the family. One afternoon, after Mia made a small mistake while preparing food, their stepmother snapped. "You are always careless. I can't stand this anymore. You are both useless," she shouted. Her words stung like a slap, but the children were used to her harshness. Mia's eyes welled up with tears. "I'm sorry," she whispered, feeling like she couldn't do anything right. Tommy looked at his sister and felt a surge of anger. He wasn't angry at Mia, but at how unfair their stepmother was. "We don't have to live like this," he said quietly. "We can leave and go somewhere better." Mia sniffled, but nodded. "But where will we go?" Tommy's voice was steady. "To the city. I've heard people can find work and be free there. It's our chance." They packed a small bag with some bread and water, knowing it wouldn't last long. With a final glance at the house, they left. The path ahead seemed uncertain, but they had hope for the first time in years. The morning sun was just rising when Tommy and Mia set out from their village. The road ahead seemed long and full of unknowns, but they were both determined. The air was crisp, and the grass on either side of the road shimmered with dew. "We'll make it," Tommy said, taking a deep breath. He felt the weight of their journey ahead, but he kept his head high. He knew that if they worked together, they could face anything. Mia followed closely behind, her small hand holding on to Tommy's. She trusted him more than anyone. "Do you think the city will be different?" she asked. Tommy nodded. "Yes. People say there's more opportunity there. We'll find a place where we can be happy." As they walked, they came across a small cottage with a garden full of flowers. An old man sat on a chair outside, carving wood with a sharp knife. He looked up as they approached and smiled gently. "Hello, children. Where are you headed?" he asked in a soft voice. "We're going to the city," Tommy replied, his voice steady, but with a hint of nervousness. "We need to find a better life." The old man paused, his eyes studying them carefully. He seemed to sense that they were not just seeking the city, but also freedom from something. "The city can be a hard place," he said slowly. But if you have hope and work hard, it can also be kind to those who are good. Just be careful of who you trust. He handed Tommy a small coin, its edges worn but still strong. Take this for your journey. It will help. Tommy took the coin and thanked the old man. They continued their journey, the weight of the coin in Tommy's pocket, reminding him of the kindness of strangers. It felt like a small light in the dark path ahead. The days stretched on as Tommy and Mia walked toward the city. Sometimes they walked through fields with tall grass swaying in the breeze, and other times they followed narrow roads that seemed to go on forever. Their legs were sore and their feet were tired, but they never complained. They encouraged each other to keep going. "We can rest when we reach the next town," Tommy would say, his voice filled with quiet determination. Mia would smile back, always trusting her brother to lead them. On the fourth night, they found a small village. Tired from the long walk, they decided to spend the night at an inn. The innkeeper was a kind woman who greeted them with warmth and a gentle smile. "You must be traveling a long way," she said, as she led them to a small room with 2 simple beds. Tommy and Mia nodded. "We're going to the city," Mia said softly. "We hope to find work there." The innkeeper gave them each a warm meal. "The city is a big place, but be careful. Not everyone there is kind, but if you stay true to yourselves, you'll be okay." The next morning, after a restful night, the innkeeper gave them directions to the next town, where they could catch a cart that would take them closer to the city. Tommy and Mia thanked her and set out again, their hearts full of hope. After several more days of walking, Tommy and Mia finally reached the big city. The moment they entered the city gates, they were both awestruck. The streets were crowded with people and carts, and tall buildings rose into the sky. The air was full of noise, people shouting, horses trotting, and merchants calling out their wares. "This place is huge," Tommy said, his voice filled with wonder. Mia looked around with wide eyes. "It's so different from our village," she said. "But it also feels a little scary." The city was busy, and everyone seemed to be rushing around. Tommy knew they had to find a place to stay, but their money was limited. They wandered the streets, asking people for help, but most people were too busy to stop and talk to them. As the sun began to set, Tommy felt a sense of worry. "What if we can't find a place tonight?" he asked, his voice soft with concern. Just then, a man approached them. He was tall, dressed in clean, fine clothes, and had a warm smile. "You look like you could use some help," he said. "Where are you headed?" "We don't know," Tommy said. We don't have enough money for a place to stay." The man looked at them with kindness in his eyes. "I work at the palace. If you like, you can stay there for a few nights while you figure things out." Tommy and Mia exchanged surprised looks. "Thank you," they both said at once, relief flooding their hearts. The man led them to the palace, where the grand building loomed high against the sky. It was even more beautiful than anything they had seen in the city. They entered through the gates, and the warmth of the palace seemed to wash over them, as if they had stepped into a different world. The king of the palace was a wise and gentle ruler. He greeted Tommy and Mia with a smile and welcomed them into the palace. "You've traveled far," he said, his voice kind and deep. "You must be tired. You can rest here for as long as you need." Tommy and Mia were grateful for the king's kindness. They were given a small room in the palace to sleep in, with soft beds and fresh blankets. For the first time in days, they felt safe and comfortable. The king spoke to them the next day, noticing their courage and kindness. "I see you both have strong hearts," he said. "I would like to offer you work here in the palace. We have a beautiful garden that needs care, and our kitchen could use some extra hands." Tommy was given the task of tending to the palace garden, while Mia was assigned to help in the royal kitchen. They worked hard, but they were happy. The king treated them with respect and kindness, ensuring that they always had enough to eat and a safe place to sleep. Tommy and Mia had been living in the palace for several weeks, and they were slowly starting to feel at home. They had settled into their roles. Mia was learning to cook delicious meals with the palace chefs, and Tommy was taking care of the royal garden, making it more beautiful each day. The king often praised their hard work, which made them feel even more valued. But one morning, as they were working in the garden, Tommy noticed a familiar figure walking toward them from the city gates. His heart sank as he recognized her, his stepmother. "What's she doing here?" Tommy whispered, his hand tightening around the shovel he was holding. Mia turned, her face paling when she saw their stepmother. "Why is she here?" she asked in a quiet voice, feeling a mix of anger and fear. Their stepmother walked toward them, her steps heavy with purpose. "I heard you two were living in the palace," she said, her voice sharp. "I want you to come back home with me. You don't belong here." Tommy and Mia looked at each other. They had been so happy in the palace, and they didn't want to return to the cruel house where they had been treated so badly. They had found safety, kindness, and hope here. "We're not going back," Tommy said, his voice firm. "This is our home now." Their stepmother scowled, her lips curling into a frown. you're making a big mistake. The city isn't a place for children like you. Come back with me, and I'll take care of you." Mia stepped forward, shaking her head. "No, we don't need you anymore. We have a better life here." Their stepmother's face turned red with anger. She tried to grab Mia's arm, but Tommy quickly stepped between them, protecting his sister. "We won't go back with you," he said. The stepmother's eyes flashed with rage, but she realized she couldn't force them to return. She glared at them one last time before turning away. "You'll regret this," she muttered under her breath as she walked back toward the city, disappearing into the distance. Tommy and Mia stood together, their hearts still racing. They felt a sense of relief wash over them, but they also knew that their stepmother's visit wasn't the end. She would always be there, trying to control them. But they were no longer afraid. They had made their choice. They had chosen freedom. The days in the palace grew brighter as Tommy and Mia made new friends. They met other workers in the palace, each of them with their own stories to tell. Some had come from distant lands, while others had been born in the city. Tommy and Mia listened to them, eager to learn more about the world beyond the palace walls. Mia, who had always been a kind and caring person, quickly made friends in the royal kitchen. She helped the cooks prepare meals for the king and the palace guests, learning how to make delicious dishes. The chefs praised her for her talent and hard work, and soon she became known for her skills in the kitchen. Tommy, on the other hand, spent his days working in the royal garden. He had always loved nature, and the garden was the perfect place for him. He carefully tended to the plants, making sure they were watered and well taken care of. The garden blossomed under his care, and the king often came to admire his work. One day, as Tommy was working in the garden, the king came to visit. He looked around at the beautiful flowers and trees, smiling. "You've done a wonderful job, Tommy," he said. "I've decided to make you the official gardener of the palace." Tommy's eyes widened in surprise and gratitude. "Thank you, Your Majesty," he said, bowing deeply. He couldn't believe how far he had come from the days when he had to struggle to survive in the village. Now he had a purpose, and he was trusted with important work. The king smiled at Tommy. "You have earned it. You've worked hard and shown great care for the garden. I know you'll continue to make it flourish." Mia also received recognition for her hard work in the kitchen. One evening, after preparing a special feast for a royal guest, the king invited her to join him for dinner. "Mia," he said, "you've become an excellent cook. I want you to be in charge of preparing meals for important events. You have a great talent." Mia smiled shyly, feeling proud of her achievements. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I'll do my best." The king's kindness toward them didn't stop there. He treated them like family, making sure they were well cared for and comfortable. For the first time in their lives, Tommy and Mia felt truly valued. They had found a place where they belonged. As time went on, Tommy and Mia's lives became even more intertwined with the palace. They continued to work hard, but they also enjoyed the rewards of their labor. The king often invited them to join him for meals and discussions, and they grew closer to him. One day, the king called them to his chamber. "Tommy, Mia," he began, "I've been thinking of a special project. I want to build a grand garden in the city to celebrate the hard-working people of our kingdom. I've chosen you to help design it." Tommy's eyes sparkled with excitement. "A garden for the city? That sounds wonderful." Mia also smiled. "We'd love to help. We could make it beautiful with flowers and trees from all over the kingdom." The king nodded. "Exactly. I know that you both have the skills to make this garden something special. It will be a place where people can come to relax, enjoy nature, and find peace." Tommy and Mia spent the next few weeks planning the garden. They worked together, combining their ideas and skills to create something truly beautiful. Tommy designed the layout of the garden, carefully selecting the plants and flowers that would go into it. Mia helped with the details, making sure that the paths were lined with lovely plants and that there were spaces for people to sit and enjoy the peaceful surroundings. Finally, after much hard work, the garden was complete. The king invited the people of the city to come and see it. They gathered in the new garden, marveling at its beauty. The colors of the flowers and the fragrance of the trees filled the air. People walked along the paths, sitting by the fountains and enjoying the peaceful atmosphere. The king stood next to Tommy and Mia, beaming with pride. "This garden is a symbol of hard work, kindness, and new beginnings," he said. "It is a gift to the people of our kingdom." Tommy and Mia looked around at the garden, feeling proud of what they had created. This was their home now, and they had built something that would last. They had come a long way from their old life, and they knew that they had finally found a place where they could be happy. As the years passed, Tommy and Mia continued to work in the palace, but their lives had changed in many ways. They had grown stronger and more confident, and they had made many friends. The king continued to treat them with kindness, and they had become trusted members of the palace staff. Mia became known as one of the best cooks in the kingdom, and Tommy was admired for his skill in gardening. They both worked to make the kingdom a better place, helping the people around them whenever they could. One day, the king called them into his chamber once more. "Tommy, Mia," he said. I want you to continue your work here at the palace, but I also want to offer you something more. You've both proven yourselves to be loyal and hardworking. I want to make you both official advisors to the royal court. Tommy and Mia were stunned. Advisors? Tommy asked, his voice full of surprise. Yes, the king said, smiling. You have the wisdom and experience to help guide this kingdom. I believe you will both be a great help. Tommy and Mia looked at each other, feeling overwhelmed but honored. Thank you, Your Majesty, Mia said. The king smiled at them. You've earned it. Your future is bright, and I know you will continue to do great things. As they left the king's chamber, Tommy and Mia couldn't help but feel proud of everything they had accomplished. They had come from nothing, and now they had everything they had ever dreamed of. They had found a place where they were loved, respected, and valued. They had found their home,